Well, the first woman ever to give a speech to the graduating class at Annapolis, which includes Marines and naval officers, is the person who will soon be commander-in-chief of those forces. I'm not going to subject you to the whole speech, but just as an example, here are 50 seconds that we'd like to talk about in a minute.
Our electrical engineers, who will soon help convert solar and wind energy into power, convert solar and wind energy into combat power. And just ask any Marine today, would she rather carry 20 pounds of batteries or a rolled up solar panel? And I am positive she will tell you a solar panel, and so would he. The American people are depending on you.
Scott, there are women in the Navy, needless to say. There are women in the Marine Corps, needless to say, and they do a fine job. But when she's talking about people humping heavy equipment up a hill, presumably in combat, because she says, let's turn this into combat energy, those are going to be men. Why do you think that Kamala Harris said, if you were to ask a Marine what she thinks about humping a 20-pound battery up a hill, is this about her or is this about the graduates? What does she hope to accomplish by this, do you think?
The language thing specifically is actually part of a broader pattern that people who engage in this kind of speech where they feel like they must perpetually refer with using a female pronoun, in their minds are trying to reverse hundreds of years of patriarchy. They're trying to shift the balance of power, and they say, well, okay, for all this time, all of the great works in the world have used the masculine pronoun to refer to people in general, or non-specific persons in this case. And so if we start saying she or her, that is helping to tilt the balance. Now, in this particular situation, Vice President Kamala Harris is certainly a woman. Much has been made of the fact that she is a woman. She must be very proud. I know all the work she put in on her whole DNA strand and everything to make that possible has been a source of great pride for her. But, this is something that the White House likes to accentuate. And so anytime they get an opportunity to put the vice president in front of anything, we will hear a string of historic firsts. Not only was she was the first woman of color to be vice president, she was the first woman of Indian descent to be vice president. She was the first woman to be vice president. She was, so we are enamored of these kinds of firsts as a culture. And specifically when it comes to the virtue signaling part of our culture, we really feel like we want to draw attention to that. I think you need to evaluate your audience. I mean, if she were speaking to a group of female officers, for example, in any military force, it would have made a lot of sense to use that kind of terminology. She risks turning off part of her audience if there are guys in the audience
to the point.
Who are saying, you know what, highly unlikely that the 5'3", 110-pound, soldier or Marine would be forced to hump that up the hill. She might get a little help with that. Now, I don't know what Marines are required to do or who does what, but I think that it would not ring true with a large portion of her audience. And when that happens in a speech, you've just sent your listener off on a side trail. You hope to bring them along with you, but it's too late. You said something that immediately made their mind go off in another direction, and you lost them.
Well, if she'd used the she pronoun speaking to the Southern Cleveland Association of Certified Public Accountants, I wouldn't have any problem with this whatsoever. That would be that. But she's talking about combat power. I'm following up with you, Scott. She's talking about hauling stuff up hills in packs and so on. And she's referring to the people doing that as she, when Kamala Harris knows, as well as everybody else in that room knows, and everybody watching knows, that it's not going to be a she who's going to be lifting some heavy weight up a hill if it's a Marine. It's going to be a he. So why did she say she in this context? If she had said something like, if you ask a Marine which target is incoming faster on her radar scope, you could make a case for this. But no, this is not just an accident, and it's not just a habit. I think that is an intentional demoralization tactic and an intentional the beatings will continue until morale improves tactic. Do you disagree with that?
I think some people see it as demoralizing. I don't think that she intended it to be demoralizing. I think she intended to lift up the female Marine, basically, and by putting her in that story in a way that she might not customarily be seen as serving, perhaps she was trying to advance the narrative of that, of total equality within the military forces for all roles and all functions within those forces. And certainly we don't want to come across as suggesting that there have not been women in our military who have been in combat, who have been injured in combat, who have been killed in combat. But that is not the primary role in most of these forces for women. So I think, yeah, there's an agenda there. I think she's trying to drive that agenda. I think she, like a lot of people, thinks that, no distinctions on the basis of sex is a good thing. And so anything she can say to advance that would be helpful for her.
Okay. Steve, I saved this one for you because you went to Military Academy. Not only is Kamala Harris a far-left ideologue, and by the way, when I say she may be the dumbest person I've seen in American politics, that is a high bar to clear.
Oh, yeah. Or a low bar to crawl under. Take your pick.
But let me ask you, as somebody who's had some military training, the United States military has a tremendous advantage at nighttime because we have technological means of seeing at nighttime that many of our enemies don't. If my ability to power a radio is a solar panel and I fight at nighttime, some part of my brain sees a potential problem here. If, on the other hand, I'm only able to communicate during the daylight hours when the sun is shining on my solar power cell, I see a problem with that because they're large and shiny. And even if the wind happens to be blowing, because if it's not blowing, I'm not getting a report back to HQ, and I'm not able to call in artillery strikes or airstrikes to save me or my men from my position, then I can always do the one thing that a camouflaged recon Marine unit would do first of all, which is to erect an extremely large tower and put a large rotating structure into the airflow far above the canopy of the jungle. And I might as well just attach a radar reflector and a big arrow saying, aim here.
Yeah, batteries are great, but they're not great for every single job. I remember the first time I read that, I can't remember whether it was Japan or South Korea, it was one of the two. Their new diesel subs, and diesel submarines, when they're running underwater, run on battery power. And one of the two countries, maybe both, is now building diesel subs with lithium-ion batteries because you get more charge per weight, and the charge lasts longer, and they recharge more quickly when the diesel engine is running, which is all great. But I don't know if you know what happens when lithium-ion batteries are damaged and are exposed to water. It's a really big fireworks show. And submarines aren't all that survivable to begin with once they've taken a torpedo hit. But I have to wonder, despite the advantages, if they're not taking a huge risk with their boats and with their crews with these lithium-ion batteries. Time will tell, I suppose. That said, the genius of things like an M1 Abrams tank is it's actually got a helicopter engine in there that'll burn damn near anything. You put gas in there, you put diesel in there, fill it with vodka, and that tank will run. Maybe not as well, but it'll run. But the thing about fuel is it's transportable. The tanker shows up, and anything that has a nozzle, you can stick the hose in and refill very quickly, even in the heat of battle, even under enemy fire. This is great. When a battery's dead, man, it's dead. And we're not just talking about having to take 30 minutes out of your schedule on a road trip to charge up your Tesla. We're talking about having to refill a tank in the heat of battle. What are you going to do? And everything is going to use different size batteries. So now you've got a logistics problem of not just getting these big, heavy batteries, but you've got to have the right size and shape for each individual need. And it's just insanity to think this is going to work. It's all they have is a hammer. Their hammer is lithium-ion batteries, so of course everything looks like nails to them. On the maybe the more serious aspect of this is when I was a kid, my friends and I all loved Star Wars. It was kids like us who made Star Wars the phenomenon that it was. Everybody loved it, especially the first movie. But the people who went back to the movie theater again and again and again were boys, typically between the ages of 8 and 15, who are still the hot market for things like all the Marvel superhero movies. And one of the reasons the Star Wars sequels failed is Kathleen Kennedy, who was in charge of that part of Disney, the Star Wars part of Disney, saying, the Force is female. Well, guess what? You just pissed off your fan base, the boys who go back to these movies again and again and again and again and again. It's the same thing with the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps was built and made great by men who fight aggressively and fast. There was a huge hubbub in the Pacific Theater in World War II when a joint Marine Army invasion, I think it was Okinawa, the Marines were so fed up because they thought the Army soldiers weren't fighting aggressively and fast enough. They just weren't up to Marine standards. These are the guys who made the Marine Corps. So if Kamala Harris, the alleged vice president, wants to go out and say that Marines are she's, it's no different from telling Star Wars fans that the Force is female. You're just going to alienate the very people that you need to make this thing work.
Bill, can I throw in one more thing?
Please.
That contrast of would you rather have that Marine carrying 20 pounds of batteries or 20 pounds of solar equipment? Let's just be clear. If you're carrying solar equipment, you're carrying batteries because you have to have the batteries to be charged by the solar panels.
No, it's exactly backwards. A solar array cannot store power.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you
carry a solar array, you have to have it charging a battery.
If you carry a solar array, you also have to carry batteries.
The batteries, yes.
So it's not one or the other. You're carrying batteries both ways. Do you want to carry batteries and a solar array or just batteries?
It's insane.
I don't know what to say about this. I mean, there are times when I just simply, when the magnitude of shoveling that needs to be done is so large that you just simply look at it and just say, no, I'm not going to touch this one. But I'm just going to have to close by saying this. If this person is this ignorant about the fundamental bottom line level of what the military is required to do, if the commander-in-chief of the armed forces genuinely believes that you can replace a battery in a combat situation with a solar array or a wind turbine, then we are in the kind of trouble that we have never been in before. We have had some very bad war presidents, but I'm not aware of not one of them, who didn't understand that at least the fundamentals, that when it comes down to the end game, it is going to be a man with a rifle and equipment going into territory. And to suggest that this is an area where we can use green energy is beyond my ability to process. If I were one of the people at that graduation ceremony, not only would I be offended by it, I read the comments, by the way, in the particular section where I saw the clip anyway, on C-SPAN. One of them said, I was a Marine. I came here to make a snarky comment, but frankly, I'm speechless. Another one said, my mother was a woman Marine and she's rolling over in her graves, and things like this. Reality will not be denied. And if I was one of the people sitting in that audience, I would be saying to myself, I have wasted the last 4 years of my life, and now I am going to put my life in the hands of somebody who is so ideologically driven to things that make no sense whatsoever that I am not at all confident that she's not going to send me to die on top of some hill in order to preserve the Guatemalan water snake. I have zero confidence in this person in terms of the person who's going to be ordering me to my potential death. It is beyond my ability to understand how somebody could be that stupid. And when I say that stupid, I don't mean just that stupid in order to say something like that. I mean somebody stupid enough to not hire a writer who had some fundamental knowledge of the people that she's talking about. You know, here's what I'm going to leave you with, folks. I'm going to leave you with the joke about Steve Martin going to a plumber's, telling a joke about, no, not a 14-inch socket, a 14-inch sprocket. Well, isn't this the plumbers convention? No, it's not. It's not a plumbers convention. This is the future of our country. If I'd been giving that speech, I would have said, ladies and gentlemen of the Navy and the Marine Corps, your job is to get there first. We have a Navy and a Marine Corps in order to fight our adversaries overseas and not here. Your job will be to go where the trouble is, and you are there to stop them from coming over here. And you are going to kick some ass doing it, and I am damn proud of you. Now get out there and do your jobs. And something along those lines. But no. By the way, for those of you who see this as the end of the country, those kind of speeches will be given again in Annapolis, the kind of speech I'm talking about. We're just going to have to go through what we're going to have to go through in order to have this kind of nonsense simply be irrelevant, inconvenient. I'm done. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle. If there is a next week right here on Right Angle, we'll see.